Right, so this is the completion of the date, October 1st, 2025. So, anyways, this will be the content part of our videos, and we're going back and forth on this how we want to do this to make it fun for everybody
Hmm.
and give you some information, mostly wrong if you're listening to me,
Yeah.
and mostly right, or at least legality right, because Rob has it wrote down and knows what it is, and I made it up.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so what do you want to talk about today?
Okay. So today, in the content part of what we're going to do here, and just so you understand, we've kind of separated our Facebook Live and given local shop news, but now we're kind of going into something we feel like applies more broadly.
Everywhere.
Yeah. So I kind of entitled this little discussion "From COVID to Cooper Flag," and we're kind of talking about the last 5 years and how the card market has drastically changed over the last 5 years in specific areas connected to breakers, hobby box prices, PSA and its influence, the Fanatics takeover, and the growth of influencers.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about it in different areas specifically. How have those things affected shops? How have those things affected shows?
Yep.
And how have those things have affected collectors, I guess. And so we'll let Bill just start talking. And the last 5 years, how do you think it's affected? Let's go with shops first.
Shops.
Sure.
So I would say shops are doing well. I mean, yeah, the only bad thing about shops is it's completely changed on the shop form and stuff like that, because before COVID, it was starting to get where it was getting harder to get product, but it wasn't impossible. Like, you could contact Rob could contact GTS and be like, "Hey, I need another case of that," and they'd be like, "Yes, sir." And then it was like, "Well, hey, for every extra case you buy, we'll give you an extra box next year."
Mhm.
Well, the problem is, in a hobby shop, we're selling one box at a time in a 12 box case. Now, that person that's on Whatnot, or at that point, 2020, Whatnot was still building steam and just starting to get in there. There was other people doing it on Instagram and all your other places and stuff like that. They were busting a case or two a night. So when they contact GTS and be like, "Hey, I'll tell you what, we need 10 more, we need 12 more cases," that next year they're getting a case at a wholesale. You know who didn't get their extra case or extra box? It was the little guy. It was the hobby shop. So the hobby shops, in course, got less product and are still getting less product unless there was a breaking form and something behind it. One of the shops in particular, Midwest Cards, for years was an online seller. They sold, so they got all kinds of. They get their allocations. I can't even imagine how much they get direct from GTS, direct from all those places, and from Tops, because they were selling to breakers and then decided to open up a shop. And now they have what I would say, I wouldn't say mega shop for this area. I would say it's definitely probably the nicest shop that I've seen. Not been there, but from videos and stuff like that. And Cameron Fontana can't seem to keep out of it. He's one of the local card guy or local uh, reporters that's been there multiple times to do stories there. Um, it has something to want to bring you in. You go in there, you can have a beer, you can have some food. It's everything wrapped up in one. It's basically a restaurant, plus you got cards and you can open up all you want. Your little shops can't afford that. So us throwing a few $1,000s into doing a renovation to make more room for that, that's a lot of money to us. But we didn't progress like the breakers did. So the shops, I think, have for so long been okay, but I see doom in the future.
All right. So again, we're kind of talking through how has the card market changed in the last 5 years as far as breakers, prices of hobby box, PSA, taking over, fanatics take over, hobby like YouTube influencer type people,
Hmm.
and its effect on shops, shows, and collectors. So, as far as its effect on shops, the last 5 years have been very interesting on shops. I believe that the combination of these things and the growth in those things, specifically the fanatics takeover, has caused more and more shops to seem more like jewelry stores and even museums at some point. They are expected to invest lots of money in their displays, even as much almost or more sometimes as in their products. And it's like a place basically for fanatics to distribute anything that they've came up with that they want to try to make money on. So specifically those items that are over $100 each, and even some shirts, whatever. It's like that's what you're expected to move. For a shop has to be a breaker in some sort. Now it could be a little Facebook page, it could be on Whatnot or Fanatics Live. It could be even more uh, breaker friendly than it is a shop. A shop could even be a front for its breaking operation, but all shops are expected to do that. Every quality shop basically is expected to take in cards and act as a middleman in the grading process. We know that shops are burdened with the idea of selling hobby boxes at $400 a piece on average and expecting old customers who are starting to fade out of the picture to come up and pay those kind of prices. And I think that all hobby shops are both benefiting and feeling the pressure of being more and more influential on social media, as we are. And you will see me doing more and more videos. I spend more than half of my time of work doing videos. And that's just the direction that it's went. Contrary to 5 years ago, it might have been the occasional Facebook Live. So I think that the impact on shops eventually is going to be a negative one, because I believe as more and more goes to Fanatics, Fanatics is already basically hinting that being an MVP account may not be right for most of us. So if you have a shop or you're thinking about your local shop, think about these things. Did you get tier one first round? Did you get finest WWE first round? Did you get hobby boxes of Disney? If the answer to more than two of those is no, you're destined for the prospect program, and Tops is going to have you there within the next 2 to 3 years. My guess is that in Central Ohio, there will be 3 shops left standing with MVP, if not just two. And we'll have to see if my prediction in about 2 years comes true.
So talking about shops,
Yeah.
would you would you start a shop
Uh-huh.
in this market if you had $1 million to invest into a shop?
So that's a very difficult question. If I had $1 million to invest in a shop,
Well, I know you'd retire actually. You'd be
yeah,
like, I don't have $1 million.
yeah,
I don't have to sell cards anymore.
yeah. If I had $1 million right now if I had $1 million right now in this market, I would find something better to invest in. However, if it's to not work for someone else, if it is my dream to own a card shop,
Mm-hmm.
I would maybe do it. Now, am I saying that I think it's wise? Not necessarily, but again, we've talked about. I could see in the future, 2 years out, our shop being demoted to what they consider the prospect with Tops
We don't
MVP.
want to.
No, we don't want to, but we could see that happening. Do I think that means doom and gloom for me? Absolutely not. I think there's other people out doing it. I think I sell a lot of other stuff that's not Tops direct related. And if I still had some
Mm-hmm.
relationship with Tops, I'm sure I'm still getting the basics and probably more of the products
Mm-hmm.
that are like $150 instead of the
Yeah.
products that are $400 or
Well,
$500.
so okay. So another question would be, okay, so if somebody was to open a shop,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think the likeliness of them if starting the Panini or not Panini Fanatics with the program the
Mm-hmm.
way it is,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to come in at entry level, you
Mm-hmm.
have to come in prospect league.
Yeah.
Do you see any way that they can possibly progress from that
Mm-hmm.
at all?
Yes, a little bit, and I will cite a business, and this is no offense to anybody, but Midwest was nothing to anybody 5 to 7 years ago. Nobody could tell you who Midwest cards were.
They
They
weren't
they
they
had a
were a
different name.
phantom.
Yeah, they had a different name and all
Mhm.
that. So do I think the right group of people with the right amount of money and you hired the right people, you could get to one of these ideal shops that Fanatics wants eventually? Yes, but I do think you're going to pay the price as far as going through the prospect program and that sort of thing.
I mean,
So,
how do you progress if they're not going to allow you to progress? You know, like
yeah.
we've talked about in the past. You know, the person that gets 3 cases of something and sells it out,
Hmm.
and they offer them another case. It doesn't matter what that fourth case is. They can pay it. They've already made money off 3 cases.
Hmm.
But the person that only got 1 case of it,
Hmm.
who is sold now, they sold their case.
Hmm.
They don't have they didn't make the money that the person did with the 3 cases.
Hmm.
You know, but they still got to buy it
Yeah.
because they need to have it in their shop. Even and sometimes the fanatics will come back with a price on the second round
Hmm.
because the price is up,
Hmm.
and unfortunately, it's temporarily up. For example, tier one. Well, I
Hmm.
mean, can I
Hmm.
use that as an example?
Go ahead.
So, wholesale like 235, blah blah blah. We don't get a case.
Hmm.
Next thing you know, hey, we'll give it to you. Market's up to 450. We're going to sell it to you for 380.
Hmm.
Well, we have to have it. We need to buy it. Now the market's what?
375.
375.
Hmm.
So now we're upside down on that.
Hmm.
Why are we upside down, top fanatics? You didn't have to put it out at 380. You made the product.
Hmm.
You could have sold it to for 335 and said, "Hey, we're going to allow you to make a bump on it." Then when the market comes back down, at least we can still break even.
Hmm.
But now we're
So,
upside down on a product that doesn't move quick.
hmm,
So
I will tell you one thing, and it's what we talked about.
sorry, I didn't mean to slam fanatics that,
Oh, no,
but
but I'll tell you one thing. It's something we talked about last week in our, our video or content part is how high hobby boxes are.
mm-hmm,
That is actually, in a way, a good thing for those who are thinking about starting a shop.
mm-hmm,
And the reason it is because it's becoming. It was 85% of the sales that
mm-hmm,
walked out the door of this shop a year ago,
mm-hmm,
and I think now it's probably closer to 60 or 70.
yeah,
And so that number, as box prices go high, it's not the only thing you can do to make money in your shop.
mm-hmm,
And I used to view it as the only thing. I think tides are changing a little bit, and I think that the average shop can be offer good customer service and just do their best. Now, are they behind the eighth ball? Yes, they're behind the eight ball for sure. And I think they got a long road ahead of them. But a lot of these guys are in a position that it's just what they want to do.
mm-hmm.
They don't need to be the breadwinner any
Yeah,
longer or that sort of thing.
no,
So,
absolutely. I
so
mean, not that many people that are in it that have the money that can be like, hey,
mhm,
I'm putting $500,000 into a business. Now, my buddy Mike, who owns Father and Sons in
mhm,
Columbus and Powell, Ohio,
yes.
he did.
Hmm.
He was already buying cards, selling cards here and there.
Hmm.
Decided he wanted to start a business, and he's very successful. It took him
Yes.
3 years to be profitable, but he has multiple workers and stuff like that. And he runs, he does all the wax, does all the singles. Probably makes more money on singles, to be honest with you, when
Yes.
it's said and done, because the wax is basically what should pay for the bill, your rent, your electric, your water, your gas, um,
Hmm.
the food bill that me and Bobby eat, and Scott and stuff like that, and the pop and all that. So,
Yeah. So okay. So we'll
anyways,
we'll move on from shops. So the question is the last 5 years, and we're kind of titled this again from COVID to Cooper Flag, and from the last 5 years, we've seen an increase in breakers, hobby box prices, PSA taking over, and grading being a big, huge part of this hobby more than
yep.
it was 5 years ago. Fanatics taking over, and influencers, social media stuff just growing and growing. So, what has been the impact, do you think, on shows? Has it been positive or negative? And what are some trends that you see?
So, in my opinion, shows have become a flipper fest, basically. You know, everybody's getting there. There's people getting there at 6 o'clock in the morning when the doors don't even open to the dealers for 7 o'clock. because they're hoping to catch people in the parking lot, or hey, I want to go through your stuff first and all that. And I do that. I've done that for a long time. It was kind of fun because there weren't that a whole lot of us. Now there is a lot of us. Or people trying to get into shows early. Like I know Brent Shannon, when he did his show over in West Jefferson, was like, hey, if you are not a regular customer, if you do not have a table, you're not allowed in the door until 10 o'clock. He had multiple people that complained about it and even left. And
Mm-hmm.
one person ended up buying a table just so they could get in.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem with the shows. I mean, your customers, the when you come to a show to sell stuff, you want to sell it. Like we've talked before. If it's the show hasn't started and I have prices on stuff, and you come in and be like, I want this and this and this, and what kind of price can I give you? Well, that price is this and this and this.
Mm-hmm.
There's no deal. I don't need to deal with I have a whole day of people coming in to look at stuff. And I have a whole lot of people that will more than gladly pay 100% of what I have on it. Or I'll feel like, hey, I can give you $5. Hey, because if it's a collector and you offer them a $5 off $100 thing,
Mm-hmm.
they are excited. They're happy. They're going to become your customer for life because you help them out.
Mm-hmm.
Not the flipper that comes in and says, hey, I buy it 80%. I'll take this and this and this. No, not needed.
Yeah.
It's not needed to us. But there are a lot of people that do shows
Mm-hmm.
that are behind the black ball because they're buying boxes like this that they can't afford, and they got to pay their rent, and they
Mm-hmm.
got to do that. So some dealers are stuck in their addiction to
Mm-hmm.
opening wax,
Mm-hmm.
that they have to take that quick money as soon as it's available.
Yeah, that's very true. So, again, I'll kind of give you my opinion on some shows.
Yep.
How have they changed in the last 5 years with the impact of all the breakers, hobby box prices through the roof, PSA, grading being
And
so
multiple
significant,
shows too.
multiple shows, fanatics taking over, and the strength of influencers in this hobby. So it's really weird. So I'm going to tell a story to get to my point. So I did Hilliard last month. So it's the Columbus Sports Card Show. Very decent show, been going on for years and years and years.
Since we were
And they
kids.
since we were kids, and they began to do 2 rooms. And she began to do that more and more. Like it was a one time a year thing. Now it's every other month kind of thing. Now, if you got in that second room, I felt sorry for you. I was like, why are you in that second room? That's the only way you can get in. Of course, I've done it for years and years. I should get the primo room there, the main room, and not the extra room. So I observed something very strange on Sunday of that show. I went over to the other room, and there was way more customers in the other room.
Mm-hmm.
There was way more action in the other room. Now, this might get me punched in the face again, but the reason is the main room's mostly vintage, and kids do not care about vintage. And it's out of sight, out of mind, and there's less action on vintage. It's a hold and buy principle. It's not a flipping principle a lot of times with vintage. And so the action was actually over there. It was a bunch of 25 and 30 and maybe 35-year-olds trading cards, shooting even a little bit of video and stuff on what they were doing.
Yep.
So what do I think that means? I think it again gives us the idea of what is the picture of the old way of doing shows, how it was, what it can be. Now, what would I do if I was Stacy and JD? What I would do is go to dealers who were willing to lose their spot and go into the other room for months so that both rooms were a good mixture of vintage and those younger things that collectors are interested in. Because I think that's the new way of doing it, and that is what seems popular. Now, again, just reporting the weather, I did a show, the Grove City Card Fest, which is put on by Brad and Ryan from Card Collector 2. And again, very good show. But again, I would just reporting the weather. There was more cameras in that room filming just what I would consider everyday activities as a card collector or a card dealer than I've ever seen in my life in one show. And it was a 200 table show. And again, there was a wide variety of people there. But that's what it was, a bunch of 30-year-olds with cameras,
Mhm.
getting content for their YouTube channel. Now, nothing wrong with that because they were doing real business in between it. And I'm just saying that is more of where we went. 5 years ago, you wouldn't have really seen that sort of thing. And it's really weird that the hobby life is around a group of 35-year-olds and the kids that they're bringing in. And we've been referred to as old heads. I'm not quite 50 yet, and I throw that out there because I can only do that for a few more weeks. But
That's
I'm
true.
not quite 50 yet, and it's like I felt like the old guy in the room for sure. And I definitely feel 100% the opposite at like
You're the young guy in the other room.
in the Columbus Sports Card Show.
Yeah.
I'm one of the younger guys in the room. So it just kind of tells you, it's more that direction that we're going,
So
and shows have definitely drastically changed.
so on that comment, on that thing, for I will say this. Here's the thing. The reason why there was more action in the other room
Mm-hmm.
is basically because those people aren't set up there also every month. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just because they're vintage, because there
Mm-hmm.
are people in the main room.
Yes.
Dell Dobemeyer, who is a friend of mine, always has a table full of people in front of this thing because he's
100%.
got nickel, dime, quarter, 50 cent, dollar cards,
Mm-hmm.
value boxes galore. He sells a lot of cards.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the people that have newer stuff,
Mm-hmm.
they always have people in front of their table. You know
Mm-hmm.
why? Because people aren't looking for stuff. They're looking for the case hits. They're looking for their specials. They're looking for that.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to a show and there's a room where these people aren't set up every month and these
Mm-hmm.
people only set up every 3 months,
Mm-hmm.
it's more likely that they're going to have stuff that you want to buy or you can
Mm-hmm.
flip or they, and stuff like that. So that's one reason I think there is more people
Mm-hmm.
over there
Yeah.
having more action because they're not having action every month or every 2 months and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Also, on a side note, I don't care how many cameras go to a show and all that. If you are not a mega influencer now, you are never going to be a mega influencer.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna be Ryan at Card Collector 2. You're not gonna be Jeff Wilson. You're not gonna be. There's been a lot of came and gone. There's a lot of people in the trenches, like in the middle, like Mojo Sports and even Burbank,
Mm-hmm.
the card father. He's very influential in the system. But if you have not reached that height right now, there are so many people that are
Mm-hmm.
doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You are never getting there.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter unless you literally sit in New York at Gary Vee's office and beg him to do a video with you that goes viral. You're not moving past that point. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just letting you know you're never going to make good money at it. You could make some money. Even some like Logan Harris with Gary Sports Cards. He has a YouTube or he's doing stuff on YouTube and doing videos and all that. And he is making a little bit of money. And I'm
Yes.
not saying you can't make some money, but you're never going to get past that point to mega influencers because when those people became mega influencers, there wasn't any.
Yeah. So on your point, before I say something, on your point, I agree with that 100%. We've talked about that, but it's almost a necessary part
Mm-hmm.
is keeping your content out there
Mm-hmm.
and showing that you kind of are quote unquote an expert on the industry, or you have some insight. And again not picking on anybody, but like I have no interest, and mainly what my business
On
focuses
being
on.
on camera?
No, I do that all the time.
Because you're on
Yeah,
camera more than
yeah.
anybody, more than Ryan now.
Oh, possibly, but it's not that. I just don't have an interest in watching a kid walk up to somebody and sell them a card and, oh, let's flip for it and all that. I much rather, and this would be a very unpopular opinion, Ryan's card and content.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched most of those.
Mm-hmm.
I much rather because I like to think about things. I
Mm-hmm.
don't like to just see like somebody make a transaction. It's just not that entertaining to me.
Because somebody made a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's not that. No one cares. No one
That's
really cares. I mean, granted, it's cool that you have the content. It's cool
Mhm.
that you have it for future and you can go back
Mhm.
and then. But you know what? I wonder how much of that stuff gets caught out because they're like,
Mhm.
hey, guess what? I went to the show and I bought a JJ McCarthy downtown for $700 and wait a
Yeah.
second. Now that card's $300. Uh oh. We need to get that content out of there.
Yeah.
So how much of these the videos do you see? You know,
Mhm.
if it's a person running a video the whole time,
Mhm.
I respect you more if you put up your flaws and not just your victories. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah, and again, going back to shows because I am a promoter myself for a number of years. Not big, huge shows. The show I do in Ross County at the Ross County Fairgrounds is the biggest show I do. It's 60 tables.
mm-hmm,
I think it's a good show, and I'm trying to do a lot like what they're trying to do at Card Fest, with just kind of limiting who comes in,
mm-hmm,
kind of handpicking people,
yep,
filtering through the process, making sure there's not too many Pokemon guys in the same room, too many
yep,
wax guys in the same room, all that sort of thing. But I just want to say this, just so nobody's confused, to JD and Stacy or to Cardfest, because that's just the two that I've mentioned, or I could mention anybody that's putting on a show. You're not going to please everybody.
no,
And,
absolutely not.
and I have to, I've heard many times because these people would be younger, more on social media. I've heard a lot of bad things about the Columbus Sports Card Show. I hear it's too much vintage. I hear it's the same old people. I hear those kind of things over and
I
over
don't think
again.
those are wrong.
I don't necessarily think they're wrong. But what I'm saying is there's a whole other group of people that would come to, even though they did a good job, again, of hand selecting people in there. I think there is an amount of people that would come to Grove City Card Fest and be a bunch of 35-year-olds with cameras is not my thing.
Mm-hmm,
You know what I mean? That's not my thing. I like this show over here just as well. I mean, it's just you can't create a perfect show. Now,
mm-hmm,
again, the handpicking of the individual people and the variety they've offered is great,
mm-hmm.
and I enjoyed the show. I'm just saying you can't please everyone, so you kind of have to pick a path.
Yeah. Also, I would say that it's noticeable that if unless the Columbus Card Show
Mm-hmm.
happens to be the same weekend as Xenia, you will find that an amazing amount of people will still go to the Columbus Card Show.
Absolutely.
You know, if there's not another option, a bigger or like a because the Xenia show has more tables.
Mm-hmm.
If there's not another option, even those people that complain about that show
Mm-hmm.
will still go to that show.
Yeah.
You know why? Because it's still that FOMO,
Mm-hmm.
fear of missing out. You
Yeah.
know, so they go there and then they go there and like, I need to spend $5,000 or it wasn't worth my time to go, and they
Mm-hmm.
go and spend $200. But you know what? The next time they're still gonna go back.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this can lead into the collectors.
Absolutely.
How collectors have changed over the last 5 years or
Mm-hmm.
been forced to change. But one more thing about the shows is shows are definitely about modern case hits, about how you can get the modern case hit,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody that's the first thing they show you. I got this case hit, or
Yeah.
I'm going to get this case hit,
Absolutely.
or I'm searching for this case hit,
Yeah.
and that's a lot of the transactions you see
Yeah.
is for the modern case hits like your downtowns. And of course, that's traveled over to the collector. So, last 5 years, what do you think? What do you think you've seen in change as far as for collectors go?
Uh, so I've seen that's a weird situation because I find myself in this thing of being a collector. I do collect. I don't just sell. I don't have to buy something today and have to sell it tomorrow. It's in my showcase. I mean, you bring me an Eddie George, I'm more than likely not even putting it out. You're never seeing it again. It's gone into the abyss of my collection. Um, Collectors, they, I'm hoping that true collectors are not falling for the smoke and mirrors of the downtowns, the kabooms, the case hits, and all that. You guys know that at some point down the line, those are going to be deadly squat.
Mm-hmm.
There's no propriety to them. You know, if you want something Patrick Mahomes, you need to buy an autograph.
Mm-hmm.
You need to buy something that is substantial, something that's numbered, something that's low numbered. If you're going to put real money into it, if you just want, if you know, why would you buy a downtown for $1,000 when you could get an autograph for 1,500? You know, because at some point, once people realize that the production of those is way more than you think,
Mm-hmm.
if it's really not for the whatnot and all those repackers and all that, using all that as dingling candy, it's the carrot in front of the horse.
Mm-hmm.
those cards aren't going to have any value.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, true collectors, they're getting few and far between,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of your vintage collectors are passing on or have moved on to something else or found out it was time to cash out, into, or my fan, like I had a very good purchase at the Franklin County Card Show. A lot of high estate, great, high graded rookie cards of several very good Heisman Trophy winners and stuff like that. But I've dealt with this guy in the past. He was like, "Hey, my kids do not want anything to do with my cards.
Mm-hmm.
If something happens to me, they don't care about them." And he was time for him to move on. I happened to be the first person to look, and I was able to spend a few $1,000s, and I bought some very, very nice cards. And those are found very, very nice homes, and I've ended up keeping a few of them. But the collectors are getting few and far between,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think that picks up because people can't afford to be in the market.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. So the question being the last 5 years, how has it been for the collectors? I would agree with Bill. There is less true collectors in the hobby. I know that over the last 5 years, we have lost customers. We've lost customers primarily because most of our customer base was box busters, and you could get a pretty decent hobby box for $150.
Like
N-
Heritage.
yeah, now the same hobby box is
Mm-hmm.
$300-400, and so I believe a lot of them have went away from personal box breaking. They've got involved in whatnot, even picking up their singles there, definitely busting some stuff. Found a breaker that they personally like and go buy their team or go buy their favorite player.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that's weird that you couldn't say 5 years ago is they question if they should grade everything. Everything they pick up, everything they hit, they question if it's worth them spending 26, 30 to $30 to have that graded
Mm-hmm.
by PSA. And that just seems like that's completely insane. And so there's a lot of education on what makes sense to grade, what doesn't. And also, this is another thing, they spend 3 times as much on supplies as they used to. Well, why? Well, one reason is inflation doubled supplies in the
Mm-hmm.
last 5 years. And now the average collector has a Zion case. A Zion case isn't cheap, even
Hey,
though
don't we?
we sell those, but at the same time, they're not cheap. So the average collector is now spending much more on that. So it's been an interesting 5 years, and maybe sometime we'll kind of make a prediction of what the next five
Mm-hmm.
years could
You know,
entail.
something I've seen more and more of is people going away from, buying their supplies, like literally just going to everything's become automated. You just go to Amazon, you click a
Mm-hmm.
button, it gets to your house and all that. Even if
Yeah.
and half the time you don't even, or people go to the Timu or they go to Sign or whatever it is, and they don't even know what they're getting. They're literally just like, I think it's a plastic thing, and I might get it.
And my cards might fit in it.
My card might fit in it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I see people trying to be cheaper, trying to cut corners
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that, like magnets.
Mm-hmm.
Please, for God's sakes, if you're going to use a magnet on a card, take time to buy a team bag or anything to cover it, because I buy collections all the time. I have thousands of used magnets that I can't reuse because they're scuffed all to heck.
Mm-hmm.
You paid $2 to $3 for a magnet just to completely get it trashed.
Yeah.
Makes no sense to me at all. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Yeah.
That's what they say. We're old men. We'll just use all these old
Old
things, and people will
idioms.
never
Yes,
know.
that's true.
But anyways, yeah,
Yeah.
I think that the collectors, I'm not saying they're not out there, but it's become sadder because they want to collect. They've
Mm-hmm.
collected since they was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like I brought up Topps Heritage. I know people that have collected that set from 2001 on,
Mm-hmm.
because it follows the years of the 50s and 60s and 70s, and they're like, a couple years ago they're like, the boxes were $85,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, okay, and they're like, well, if it gets to 100, I'm not buying it.
Mm-hmm.
Then it got up to 100. They're like, okay, well, I'm not buying it next year if it's any more. And then it was 110.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like almost 150 bucks.
Mm-hmm. 135 to 150 is pretty.
135 to 150. And you don't even, you're not even guaranteed an autograph. You get
Mm-hmm.
an autograph for a jersey, and in a case, you might get 3 autographs. More than likely you're just getting, but they literally just want to put together that set.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be killing people's prices just to they want to put together a set.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the higher end stuff, I get it. If you're like talking, you're buying exquisite or elite or flawless, and you only get 8 cards in a box.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're not putting together a set buying boxes at $2,000.
Yeah.
You know,
No, that's
so
for
I
sure.
just wish there was more things that actual collectors could enjoy in the hobby that's not going to get corrupted by all the nonsense of the case hits or the whatnot or the gambling or the
Mm-hmm.
breaking or
Mm-hmm.
mystery packs or
Mm-hmm.
repacks and stuff like that. I think that's the downfall of the hobby.
Yeah.
Um, honestly,
Yeah. So if you happen to stumble across this on YouTube,
sorry.
make sure you subscribe and follow some of our stuff. You can see some
Yep,
of our stuff from back 4, 5, 6, 7 years, and ours were
absolutely,
always content heavy. Our
absolutely.
discussions, so you can see where we were wrong because we were wrong a lot, and you can see where we've been right. So we've been doing this over
Wait, I was wrong.
5 years. Yes. So we'll be at it again next week. We'll have some topics or a couple,
Absolutely,
and we hope to see you then.
absolutely.